You've probably seen the headline, Social Security is running out of money. Maybe you saw it on the news. Maybe your adult kid texted it to you. Maybe you saw it and you felt a stab of anxiety. I want to start this video by saying something that almost nobody in the media is going to say to you. That headline is technically accurate, and it is almost completely useless for planning your retirement, because here is what that headline does not tell you. Social Security has been here before. Congress knows exactly what the options are, and once you understand those options, you can plan around reality instead of living in fear. That's what this video is. By the time it's over, you're going to know more about the future of Social Security than 95% of all Americans. And you're going to walk away with a personal action plan regardless of what Congress does or does not do. Let's go. The numbers are real, but the panic is optional. Let's start with what is actually happening, not what the headlines say, what the actual documents say from Congress, the Social Security Administration, and others. Social Security pays benefits to approximately 75 million Americans every single month. Retirement benefits, survivor benefits, disability benefits. It is the largest social insurance program in the country. Now, the program has two main trust funds. The one that most people are worried about is called the OASI Trust. That trust fund, the name, it stands for Old Age and Survivors Insurance. You got that OASI. This is the one that covers your retirement check. Both the Congressional Budget Office and the Social Security Administration's their own chief actuary project the trust fund. That fund will deplete somewhere around 2032 to 2033. Now here's the part the headlines always leave out. Deplete does not mean gone. It does not mean zero. It does not mean Social Security disappears. There is no serious proposal anywhere in Washington for the elimination of Social Security. None, zero, zip. Here's what depletion actually means. The program still collects payroll taxes every single year. Money is coming in. At the point of depletion, the incoming money covers roughly 77 cents of every promised dollar. The projected shortfall, if nothing is done, is a cut of somewhere between 23 and 25%. Look, I get it. That's real, and that deserves to be taken seriously. I'm not going to minimize that, but it's not the apocalypse that the headlines are selling. It's just a math problem. And math problems, they have solutions. So this isn't some scandal, all right? It's just a math meeting demographics. So before we talk about how to fix it, you need to understand why this is happening in the first place. Because once you understand the cause, the solutions, they start to make a lot more sense. Social Security is what's called a pay-as-you-go program. Today's workers pay in, today's retirees, they get paid. That's the basic engine of how Social Security works. In 1960, there were 5 workers for every 1 Social Security recipient. 5 people paying in for every 1 person drawing out. That ratio, it worked beautifully. Today, that ratio is closer to 2.7 workers per recipient, and it is projected to keep declining. 3 things drove that shift. First, the baby boomers. The largest generation in American history is now retiring in massive waves. More people drawing out, fewer people paying in. Second, life expectancy. When Social Security was designed in 1935, the average life expectancy was 61 years. Today, it's closer to 77. The program was not designed for people to collect benefits for 20 or 25 years. Third, birth rates. Fewer children today means fewer workers tomorrow. Fewer workers tomorrow means less money coming in. This is not some scandal. This is not the result of fraud or waste or a political failure by either party. This is a program designed for a specific population model that doesn't reflect our current reality. And the people in charge of the program, they know it. The year is 1983. We have Ronald Reagan as president. Tip O'Neill, he's overrunning the House. They're weeks from disaster. They fixed it. Here's the thing about this moment that nobody talks about. As a country, we've been here before. Not kind of, maybe somewhat close to here. No, literally here. In 1983, the Social Security Trust Fund was weeks away from being unable to cut checks, unable to make payroll. Not years, not decades, weeks. And the political environment was, if anything, more divided than it is today. Ronald Reagan was in the White House. Tip O'Neill was Speaker of the House. Two men who agreed on almost nothing. They sat down and they made a deal. Here's what the Social Security amendments of 1983 actually did. And it's important for us to study these to inform what options are ahead. One, they gradually raised the full retirement age from 65 to 67. Not overnight, phased in slowly, starting in the year 2000. See, this is why many of us, our age, we think of retirement at 65, only to find out our full retirement age is 67. This is when that happened. Current retirees at the time, they weren't touched. They accelerated scheduled payroll tax increase as number two. Workers and employers each paid in a little bit more. Next one, they made up to 50% of benefits taxable for higher income recipients. If you were doing well in retirement, you contributed a little back. They delayed the cost of living adjustment by 6 months. So they paused it, they put it on hold. It was temporary, it wasn't a permanent cut, just to get them through this funding period. Next, they brought in federal employees and nonprofit workers into the Social Security system. Why? It expanded the base of people paying in. Now, what was the result? Social Security has run solvent for 40 years on those changes. No current retiree had their check cut. The changes were gradual and forward-looking. It was not easy. It required real compromise, but it got done. And here's the single most important thing I want you to take from that story. We have a longer runway today than they had in 1983. In 1983, they had weeks. We have years. That means any fix, if they get going on it today, it can be more gradual, more carefully designed, more thoughtful, and less painful than what Reagan and O'Neill had to do. So these are the real options on the table today. Look, these aren't opinions. These are actual proposals. Okay, this is the part I think will make you feel genuinely more informed than most people in this country. All right, these are the actual options being debated in the United States Senate committee hearings right now. I'm not editorializing. I'm just reading you the menu. Here's how this works. Any change to Social Security requires 60 votes in the Senate. That means bipartisan support. It's not optional. It's mathematically required. So what does that mean? It means whatever final deal gets done will be a combination of these options and not a single party's wish list. Let me go through them one by one. Option 1, raise the retirement age. You're living longer. Should you wait longer to collect? The full retirement age currently, as mentioned, is 67 for anyone born after 1960. There are several proposals that would raise it to 68 or 69, phased in gradually over many years. Here's the argument for this. Americans live significantly longer than they did in 1983. The math supports a longer working window. The argument against, not everyone can work into their late 60s. Construction workers, nurses, factory workers, people in physically demanding jobs often can't just add 2 more years of work because Congress decided to change the math. Most experts expect some version of this to be part of any final deal that's negotiated. The question is how gradually and with what protections for lower income workers. All right, here's a fact that you may not know. $1 million earners, they stopped paying into Social Security in March. Right now, Social Security payroll taxes are capped at $184,500 in wages. Earn above that, and you stop paying in to Social Security. Think about what that means. Someone earning $185,000 a year pays the same total payroll tax as someone earning $5 million a year. In 2026, $1 million earners stopped contributing to Social Security on March 9th. The rest of us, we pay all throughout the year. Proposals now range from extending the taxable cap to maybe $250,000 or $400,000 in wages, or applying the tax to any income above that threshold without increasing those earners' future benefits. Now, per the program, Social Security's own actuaries, eliminating the cap by itself entirely, if you eliminate the cap, would extend solvency by 75 years. Now, what are the political challenges? This will require Republican support to pass the 60-vote threshold. Whether some version of this makes it into a final deal, it's one of the biggest open questions that Republicans and Democrats are going to have to come together on. All right, next option. Should someone in the top 2% of wealth in the country receive the same benefit guarantee as everyone else? This option caps how much higher earners can receive. One proposal currently being discussed is a maximum annual benefit, right? A ceiling of $100,000 for married couples, $50,000 for individuals. It's called the 6-figure limit. At first glance, it might sound reasonable. Social Security was never designed, ever, to make you wealthy in retirement. But before you form an opinion on this one, hang on a second. You need to understand what it actually takes to hit that threshold. Your Social Security benefit is based on something called your average indexed monthly earnings. We have a lot of abbreviations here. That's called your AIME. That is essentially the average of your highest 35 years of earnings adjusted for inflation. The formula that turns your AIM into a benefit is already progressive by design. I've done another video on that explains how for lower income earners, Social Security replaces that wage, that income, at a higher percentage. Higher income is replaced at a lower percentage. The system is already doing some of this work. To receive $50,000, and here's an example. To receive $50,000 per year from Social Security, that's about $4,200 every month, you would need to have earned at or near the Social Security wage cap for approximately 35 years. That cap today is $184,500. Look, we're not talking about someone who had a few good years. We're talking about someone who was consistently in the top 5 to 10% of all American wage earners for 3.5 decades. And for a couple to hit $100,000 in combined benefits, you need two people who both did that along the way. Less than 2% of individual retirees receive benefits anywhere near that level today. So right now, this affects a very small group, which raises the question, if it only affects 2% of retirees, why does it matter to the rest of us? A policy targeting 10% of retirees in 1984 now hits over 50% of retirees. So here's why a little bit of history matters. Here's the part of the proposal that deserves real scrutiny, and it is the part almost nobody is talking about. Let me take you back to 1984. As part of the reforms we talked about earlier with Reagan and O'Neill, Congress made Social Security benefits taxable for recipients above a certain income threshold. At the time, those thresholds were set deliberately high. The expectation was that less than 10% of retirees would ever be affected. This was specifically designed as a policy to target high wage earners. Those thresholds were never adjusted for inflation. So fast forward to today. Incomes have risen, benefits have grown, the thresholds have stayed exactly the same. And today, over 50% of Social Security recipients, they pay federal taxes on their Social Security benefits. What started as a policy targeting just a small group of wealthy retirees now affects the majority of people receiving Social Security. Now, apply that same dynamic to a benefit cap. If the cap is not indexed to inflation so it grows over time, benefits will grow while the cap stays fixed. More and more retirees will hit that threshold, and what affects 2% of retirees today could affect 20 or 30% a generation from now. Some versions of the proposal would index the cap to inflation, but Social Security benefits grow along as wages grow, and those often outpace inflation. So even an indexed cap could expand its reach over time. Now, other versions would hold the cap flat for 20 or 30 years and then index it. If that happens, the cap moves down the income ladder with every passing year. Look, this is not a hypothetical risk. We have watched this exact movie before, and it ran for 40 years before anyone noticed the ending. We have to understand that policy changes behavior. We think we're creating a policy, but the actual impact is different than the intended impact. Let me explain that. There's one more layer to this that most people miss. If high income earners know that delaying their claim to age 70 would push their benefit above the cap threshold, why would they delay? They would not. They would claim earlier. They would restructure their income. They would optimize around that cap. And here is why that matters, even if you're not a high earner, because if it's delayed claiming by higher earners, that actually supports the program's finances. When you delay, yes, you receive more per month, but the program pays out for fewer years. Remove the incentive to delay for higher earners, and you change the math the proposal was designed to fix. Policy changes behavior, and the actual impact is often different from the intended impact. The argument for this cap: protect those who need Social Security most, reduce payments to those who need it least. Now, here's the argument against. Social Security has always been an earned benefit. You paid in, you get back what you were promised. Capping benefits changes that. That's a fundamental contract that we have with Social Security that would be erased. Underneath all of this is a deeper question, that this proposal is quietly trying to answer. Is Social Security an earnings-based system where what you pay in determines what you get out? Or is Social Security becoming a means-tested system where your benefit is determined by your need? That's not a small question. Once you start down that path, where you draw the line is a decision every generation inherits going forward. Now, here's a really creative idea that's now floating around Washington. What if the trust fund invested like a 401k instead of a savings account? This is from Senator Bill Cassidy out of Louisiana. He's proposing, it's one of the most creative ideas. The concept here is the government borrows, this is a big number, $1.5 trillion. They invest it in a diversified fund similar to a 401k. It holds it in escrow for 75 years and uses the returns to offset the program's shortfall. It's modeled partly on a retirement fund specifically set up. It's called the National Railroad Retirement Investment Trust. They've been doing that for something since 2001. The proposal includes independent management, annual audits, and strict guardrails against political interference. The upside? Market returns over 75 years could be significant. The concern? Social Security benefits are supposed to be guaranteed. Tying even a portion of them to market volatility, market performance, that introduces a kind of risk that has never existed in this program. Now, these things are worth watching. They're worth understanding. Now, what does history say? History says there will not be one single fix. It will always be a combination of those options. That's the honest answer about what will happen in Congress. It will not be one of these options alone. It will be a carefully negotiated combination of some benefit adjustments on one side, some revenue increases on the other, phased in gradually, so no current retiree is blindsided. That's how it worked in 1983. Now, the Bipartisan Policy Center confirms that lawmakers from both parties are actively engaged in this process. In fact, the 2026 class of senators, the ones who just got in, they're the first group that must face this within their own 6-year term as senators. Here's the hard truth about timing. The longer Congress waits, the bigger changes will be required. Small adjustments made today become large adjustments if it's made in crisis tomorrow. Every year of delay narrows the menu, narrows the options. You don't control Congress. You do control this. Okay, we've talked about the math. We've talked about history. We've talked about options. Let's talk about you. Because here's the thing I really want you to hear. The person who understands the options makes decisions based on reality. The person who only watches the headlines, those folks make decisions based on fear. Fear-based decisions around Social Security almost always cost you money. So here are 5 things you can do right now, starting today. Number 1, pull your own Social Security statement. You can't plan around a number you've never even looked at. Go to ssa.gov. Create a free account. It takes about 10 minutes. Your statement will show you 3 things. It's going to show you your projected benefit if you claim at 62, your projected benefit at your full retirement age, and your projected benefit if you wait until age 70. This statement, that's your baseline. Everything else in your retirement plan gets built around that number. Number 2, model your claiming age. The difference between claiming at the right age and the wrong age can easily exceed $60,000. Every year you delay claiming past your full retirement age will add approximately 8% to your benefit permanently. It doesn't change. And every year you claim early before your full retirement age, remember that FRA we've talked about, it reduces your benefit permanently by between 6 to 7% every single year. That math compounds over a lifetime. The difference between the best claiming decision and the worst decision, like I said, can easily exceed $60,000 in total lifetime benefits. Use the free calculators. Go to ssa.gov. You'll see calculators on their site that'll help you model your individual decision. Okay? Pick your break-even decision at different starting points and see what happens. Make that decision with information. Don't just leave it to anxiety. And if you want to go deeper on that exact decision, this is what the next video in the series is going to be built for. Number 3, build a buffer that's not tied to Social Security. You don't have to replace Social Security. You just need to reduce your dependency on Social Security. Let's talk about that. The goal here is not to save your way out of needing Social Security. Look, let's be honest, that's not realistic for most people watching this video, and it's not necessary. The goal is to reduce the percentage of your monthly income that depends on Social Security. Let's use an example. Even $200 a month in additional savings now, and choose a conservative 6% return over 10 years, will build roughly $33,000 in additional cushion. That's not life-changing money on its own, but if you combine it with your benefit, your other income, your planning, it is the difference between an adjustment that derails your retirement and the one you had already planned around. Number 4, know your floor. What is the minimum amount of money you need in retirement? That number really changes everything. Sit down this week and do this exercise. What is the absolute minimum monthly income you need to cover your non-negotiables, rent or mortgage, utilities, food, medications, insurance? Whatever that number is, write it down. Now, how much of that does Social Security cover? Okay. When you look at your projected benefit, how much does it not cover? The gap between your floor and your Social Security check is the number you're actually solving for. That's the savings number you're trying to figure out. When you know that number, any future adjustment by Congress, it's not some abstract fear. It's a specific dollar amount with a specific plan attached to it. Look, if you'd like a worksheet that takes you through these numbers, I've got one over at brainflash.com. You can download it. It'll help you walk through both revenue and expenses. Number 5, don't claim early out of fear. Panic claiming at 62, it locks in a permanent reduction. There is no mulligan. There's no do-over there. And here's why that matters. I really need you to hear this really the most. When people hear that Social Security might be adjusted, their instinct is to grab the money as fast as possible. Claim at 62. Get what you can before something happens. That instinct is almost always wrong, right? It depends on individual situations, but when you claim at 62, it locks in a permanent reduction of up to 30%. Okay? 30% below what you would have received had you waited till your full retirement age. Look, the Social Security program, it's not going away. The program is going to pay something. The question is whether have you positioned yourself to receive that something from the strongest possible baseline. Look, you walked in with fear. You're walking out with a plan. Let me tell you what I really hope that you walk away with. Social Security, it's not going away. The people in charge of Social Security, they know exactly what the problem is. They know exactly what the options are. They fixed this before under worse circumstances in less time. The headlines are just designed to make you feel helpless. This video was designed to do the absolute opposite. You now know what is actually in the trust fund projections. You know why the demographics shifted. You know what Reagan and O'Neill did in 1983 and how it worked. You know the 4 real options Congress is debating right now. And you have 5 specific things that you can do right now this week to strengthen your retirement position. You know what? That's not a small thing. And the next time someone in your family sees a scary headline about Social Security, maybe your adult kid texts it to you, maybe it comes up at the dinner table, you're going to be the one who actually knows the answer. Not because you have a finance degree, not because you hired some advisor, but because you did the work to understand it. That's what it means to show up prepared for yourself and for the people you love. That's what Brain Flash is for.